another feeling that is called Sabi. Sabi is akin to Yugen, but it's a certain kind of solitariness or loneliness. Good loneliness. Not the loneliness which plucks at the heartstrings and makes you long for friends. That's not Sabi. Sabi is when you love to be alone and are at peace in this loneliness. And so there is also another mood, still akin to this, which in Japanese is called Aware. It's spelt like our word aware, only pronounced Aware. And this, like Yugen and Sabi, is difficult to translate. But it's a sense of sadness, but delightful sadness. There's a poem which says, even in the mind of a no-mind man, there is a ware when the snipe leaves the marsh on an autumn evening. And you know, late in autumn, when all nature is foggy and cold, and the leaves have almost gone, and the last sign of life, the bird, the snipe, leaves and goes somewhere else, perhaps further south. It's all gone. When the last geese migrate and winter sets in, it would say, even in the mind of a no-mind man, that is to say, a Buddha, who has no, you might say, egocentric feelings, even in such a person, there comes a clutch of sadness. Aware is a sort of nostalgia. And we feel it very strongly in all the poetry of transience. You know, this is one of the greatest themes of poetry. How the world is floating away. Nothing can be possessed. And we are all dissolving smoke. And poets keep on at this. So do preachers. But in what different ways? The preacher will say, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. But in the next moment, he will burst into poetry. You know that chapter in Ecclesiastes, where everything is described as passing away. How exquisite it is. And in Shakespeare, the same magic is evoked. Our revels now are ended. These our actors, as I foretold you, are all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin, thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, aye, all which it inherits, shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. What's going on? From one point of view, you see, the poet seems to be putting everything down, and to say, it's all an illusion, it's all a vision, and there's nothing. And yet at the same time, he borrows from this vision. He borrows the beautiful imagery of cloud-capped towers and gorgeous palaces and solemn temples. And from the illusion itself, he weaves his spell. Omar Khayyam, which is today, Fitzgerald's Omar Khayyam, is a bit corny to ears trained to modern poetry. But to the Victorian ear, it had the same magic. The earthly hope men set their hearts upon turns ashes, or it prospers, and anon like snow upon the desert's dusty face, lighting a little hour or two, is gone. Now, Oriental poetry is full of this theme. Haiku, every kind of Buddhist sutra and so on, is full of the theme of the disappearing world. Ukiyo-e, the floating world that vanishes. And there's one kind of person who says, don't you look at those beautiful girls, because in a few years they're going to be ugly old ladies. Don't you take delight in this delicious food, because in a few years you're going to have chronic stomach ulcers and bad digestion. Don't you dissipate with singing and dancing, because not long from now you'll have rheumatism or arthritis and a sore throat, and you won't be able to enjoy it anymore. But another kind of person is saying, yep, it all dissolves. It all goes away. And the beautiful girls will be old ladies, and the handsome young men will be crones, and eventually skulls. And isn't that great? What's wrong with skeletons? When you pick up on the beach a shell of some fish and you say, no fish at home anymore, all the flesh in this bone is dissolved, and you've got just the bone, and you say, wow, look at that, isn't that great? A skull is just as beautiful as a seashell. A bone which a brain once lived in, a bone which jeweled eyes once shone from, but still look at that white skull. It's really a marvelous thing. Only we've been taught wrong associations with it. Taught that the going away of life is against life, whereas as a matter of fact, life is entirely something that always goes away. Going away, dissolving, is the same thing as living. Only if our associations get crossed up, and we are taught that dying is against life, then we can't live. Dying is the same thing as living. And if you see that everything becoming bones, everything turning back into the soil, becoming manure, you see, that is life. That's what why in the United States in particular, we've got to have a revolution against morticians. I mean a real serious revolution, because they are preventing us from dying properly. Getting the idea that you would be preserved indefinitely in some great casket under the ground where the rain will never leak into it. You know that ad they have? And that this thing is going to be there mummified forever and ever and ever, and your loved one will always last. Ugh. The loved one must be allowed to dissolve and not be clung to. I know a woman whose daughter died in middle life, you know, in the prime of life. And she has kept her daughter's room exactly as it was on the day she died, as a sort of shrine. Everything is precisely in the place. The bed is turned down, the book is open at the place where it was left, everything. And this room is entered with a kind of hush, because she really won't let death happen. So, this is why the theme of transience and dissolution is really one of the mainstays of poetic beauty. And the poet is a genius and a compassionate bodhisattva to us all. When he takes the thing that we dread, that is to dissolve, and shows us that dissolution is the heart of beauty and the heart of life. And this is what the mood of aware in haiku and in painting and in poetry evokes.